Next, what I'd like to make is the wheel, as well as a small adjustment to the side right here, this piece. And we're also going to make the decals that go on the car. There's one that goes on the hood of the car. There's one that goes basically right here, as well as one that goes in the back of the car, back where the lights were. So first let's make the wheel. So right click on the car to select it. Press tab to go into edit mode. And first we're going to position our cursor. Right now the 3D cursor is right here. So we're going to press 1 to go into front view. And you can also press Z for wireframe if you'd like to. But basically we want to place it in the center of where the wheel would be. So basically here, just left click. That'll move the cursor here. But it's not perfectly where we want it. You can see it's right towards the front. But if we go to side view by pressing 3 on the number pad, and then left clicking right in the center of where the wheel would be, you can see now our 3D cursor is positioned right where the wheel should be, basically. We will still have to make changes, but that's pretty close. So now make sure you're in edit mode still, and create a cylinder. We're going to change the vertex count from 32 down to 12. I usually use either 12 or 10 vertices. It's up to you if you want to use a different number. I just suggest using an even number so that you can make all quads with these sides right here. So this is too big to start out with, so we're going to press S to scale it down. And you'll notice we also need to rotate it, so we're going to press R, Y, and then 90. I'm going to press 3 to go into side view. And we just want to scale this out. But we don't really want to scale it on the x-axis at this point. So I'm just going to press Z first to go into wireframe here so we can see this a little better. But since we don't want to scale on the x-axis, we're going to press S to scale and then Shift X to exclude the x-axis, and then drag this out until it reaches where the wheel should be, which is about here. And then we're going to press 1 to go into front view. And you see that the size is pretty close, but it's not perfect. So I'm going to drag this over a little first, and then I'm going to press S and then X to scale on the x-axis, and shrink mine down a little. And you can just continue doing that until yours matches up in both the front view here and the side view here. And once you have that, you should be good to go. You can press Z to get out of wireframe and tab to take a look at it. And if you think it needs to be in a different position than what it is right now, you can just go back into edit mode by pressing tab and just slide it over some in either direction. You don't necessarily have to follow the reference perfectly because our model probably doesn't fit the reference perfectly either, so it's up to you where you want to position it. But I think mine's probably fine where it is. So that's it for the wheel. If you want to move one to the back, I'm just going to press 3 to go into side view real quick. I still have my wheel selected, so what I'm going to do is press Shift and D. That will duplicate, right click to cancel the movement, drag this back on the y-axis. And a lot of times with cars, the front wheel is actually smaller than the back wheel. For example, you might have a 19-inch front wheel and then a 20-inch back wheel. And this is not that uncommon. So if it looks like the back wheel is bigger, it probably is. So I'm going to press Z to go into wireframe again and drag this up some. And we're going to need to scale this again because it's a bit bigger than the front wheel, it seems. So I'm going to press S, Shift X to exclude the X-axis. Drag it out until it's the size that you need it. And then left click to confirm that that's what you'd like to do. You could also make it a bit wider if you want. I don't think it's that important, but it's something that you can do if you would like to. And another option instead of scaling, if that's what you'd like to do, is you can switch to face select and select this inner face and then just drag it around so that this way you're not moving the outside face at all. I'm just going to right click to cancel this though, because I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But feel free to adjust it. I mean, you might, the real thing, since the rest of the tire is bigger, this part's probably a little wider too in reality. So you can move it around if you'd like to. So that's basically it for the wheels. That's how I typically do them. The only thing now that you have to do, which I probably should have done first before I duplicated it, but this will give you some practice doing it twice, is now we have to make quads out of this. Because this face here, if we go to face select and select this face, it's made up of 12 vertices. And you don't want any more than 4. So we need to make this into quads. So go to Vertex Select. And one thing that you'll probably try to begin with if you're starting out doing this is just try to join like these two straight up and down. But that doesn't always work, and with 10 it would work. The straight up and down ones would connect, and these would connect, and these would connect. But you see here that this would leave a triangle at the end, and we don't want that. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo this. And instead, you want to angle this a bit more. So deselect this one, select this one. So these two are selected. J to join. And now when we continue on, selecting one, selecting the other, and then J to join, you can see now we have a quad instead, which is what we want. And when we get to the other side, the same thing happens. So now we have all quads instead of that one triangle at the end. You're also going to have to do this with the inside. If you want to, you can hide the rest of the car and do this. And you also want to try to match the angle of the outer part. So we had one here, so I'm going to J to join this, and it's the same process along the entire thing. Select one, hold shift, select the other, J to join, and repeat the process until you have all quads like this. And then we're going to do it on the back as well, just for practice. From here we went right to left with our angles. So we want to do the same here. Select the center vertex. Select the one that's off to the left, J to join, continue along until you have all of them joined together like this. Don't forget to do the back. Same thing. Make sure you have two selected, J to join, continue on until you're finished. And that's the basics of the wheel. So the next thing I would like to do is the decals, but first actually I want to make a small adjustment to this part here. And if we look over here, it has sort of this cap at the end that we didn't make initially. So I'm going to make this cap real quick. And from this image, there's no hole here. I didn't think there was to begin with. So we're going to get rid of the hole and we're just going to make this cap. I'm still in Vertex Select. I'm going to select this vertex and press period on the number pad to focus in on that selection. Now I'm going to select the other vertices that are making this hole here, and I'm going to press delete and choose vertices. Now hold Alt and right click. That will get this group of quads here, then press F to make a face. And that will fill it back in the way it should be. Now we want to make that cap. So get to sort of a side view like this so you can see a little better. Press Ctrl R to add a loop cut. You may not be able to see it on screen, but it's probably over in this area. Just left click and drag it over until it's about here. And now what we want to do is make another loop cut. So press Ctrl R, left click again, drag it over, and this time we want it to match up perfectly with this one, and you'll see why in a minute. So just drag it until you can't drag it anymore, left click, and since now we have two edge loops perfectly on top of each other, we want to hide this one that we just created. So we're going to press H to hide it. And now I'm going to select one of these vertices, go to Select, choose Linked. We're going to scale this up a little because the cap of it is actually a little bit bigger than the rest of it. So, but we don't want to scale on the Y. So I'm going to press S, Shift and Y to exclude the Y axis. And we're just going to drag it out a little. Then you can press Tab to take a look at the whole thing. And that looks pretty decent. If you want, you can make it a little bigger by pressing S, Shift Y, scale it out a little more until you're happy with the result. Compare it to this. And I think my first one was probably a little closer. I don't think it's too much bigger. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z in edit mode a couple times to get it back to that thickness. And if you want to, you can line things up a little better down here. So you can select these vertices and drag. Well, actually first what we should do is unhide the rest of it. So press Alt H to unhide the rest of it, because there's a third vertex down here. Make sure you get all three of them if you're going to move things around. And just try to line these up a little better. There's 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom, so if you're going to move things, make sure you have 3 before you start moving things. That's probably about as close as I'm going to get it. So that's that part. And next we're going to need some decals. You can see here there's this 650S decal here. And then on the front, if I zoom in, you can see this McLaren symbol here in the front. And then in the back we have another McLaren symbol. And we can actually make this license plate as well. So let's start with the easiest thing, which is the license plate. So I'm going to press Tab to go back into edit mode and go back to the back view here and just left click somewhere here, basically where the license plate should be, and then go out to the left and left click again and create a plane. Then press RX -90, S to scale it down, then SZ to scale it down in the Z axis. That'll give us more of a license plate shape. Drag it together until it meets like this. Scale it down some more if you need to by pressing S. I'm going to press period to focus in on the selection, and then basically drag it into place here somewhere like this, and continue scaling it and positioning it as you need. I may not actually leave the license plate in because it kind of blocks the view of the rest of the car, well, at least this part of the car. This is just to show you how to make it, just in case you want to have one like this. And this looks pretty flat, the license plate, as it probably should be, so you don't have to do any adjustments as far as the y-axis goes. Like this, I mean. You don't have to move it like this because it should be flat anyway. So that's going to be good for now, because I don't even think I'm going to keep that there, but that's just to show you how you would make a license plate, and then you could texture in whatever you wanted to texture in, like they have here, 650S. You just make a texture for that instead of actually modeling it. So now we're going to make this logo as well, and we are going to make this logo too, because that goes on the side right over here. So we will have to make that logo, but not for the license plate. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to basically import this picture into Blender. And if you don't have this picture, there will be a link in the description for sure with this picture, as well as the rest of the pictures that I've used, so that you can get this one and use it. So to import that picture, all we have to do is go back down here. We're going to add another image. And this is the back view. I don't really need it at this point, so I'm going to press this little triangle here to collapse it so it's not showing all the details. And we're going to go to Open, and then you're going to find your picture wherever you stored it. If I can remember where it is. So now if you go to any of your views, like 1, 3, or 7, you'll have this gigantic picture. And since I'm in front view, I just pressed 1 to go to front view, by the way. We also still have this front view picture, which at the moment we don't need. So over here, where it says front, we're going to click this little eye, and that's going to hide that picture for the moment. And now we can make the decals. So real quick, I'm just going to press Shift S and choose cursor to center. That will move this cursor back to the center point. So Shift S, cursor to center. And at this point, make sure you're in object mode because we want to make a completely new object. This car has a mirror modifier, and as you can see, this logo is not mirrored. The left side is not the same as the right side. There's an M over here, there's an N over there. Same here, 650S. It's not mirrored, so we don't want to make it this in the same object as the car. It's the same with the windshield wiper, where we made it a separate object. Anyway, make sure you're inside object mode and create a plane. Now press tab to go into edit mode, R, X, 90, and then enter. Scale it down, tab to go into edit mode, and G to grab to bring it down closer to here, and just zoom into your image to get a nice good view. So now what we're going to do is start positioning these vertices. You can use the arrows like this just by left clicking the arrows, right click to put it back into position if you're moving it like that, or you can use G to grab, and that will move on both the Z and the X axis in this case. Since we're in front view, it won't allow us to move it in the Y axis. So I'm going to use G to grab and at this point, and I'm probably going to use both methods as we're going through this. I'm not going to explain every little movement like G to grab and grab the arrow and stuff. I think you can follow along and figure it out pretty much. But one thing you want to do is you'll notice the top of this is pretty flat, and I would be willing to guess that it's actually perfectly flat. So you want to make sure that these two are perfectly in line. And as usual, to do that, we're going to use snapping. So grab the blue arrow, hold Control and snap it. Do the same with this one, grab the blue arrow, hold Control and snap it. Then if you need to move it down some, move both of them instead of just one. So to add more details, like we need another vertex here, we're going to press Ctrl R, left click, and then right click in this case because it's basically right where we need it. Select these two vertices, E to extrude, drag it down, and I'm actually going to hold Control and snap it because I think that's going to work out good. E to extrude, drag it over, select these two, E to extrude, we're going to snap it on the Z to make sure that these are perfectly flat. Select these two, E to extrude, make sure these are perfectly flat, then select both and make sure they're perfectly flat with that. So now we have our M. The C is a bit shorter. I'm going to select these two, press Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, drag it over. But you will notice that the bottom is going to line up, and that's true throughout the entire thing. The bottom will always be perfectly in line, so you don't want to move this vertex. You just want to move this one down until you get what you want. So now I have both selected. E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it back, S to scale, do it again, E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it back, S to scale, select these two, E to extrude, drag it over, we're going to need more vertex points here for both the top and bottom, so press Ctrl R, left click, drag it up until you get what you need, Ctrl R, drag it down until you get what you need, and we probably will Control R, well, let's E to extrude and drag this over, see how this looks. We probably do want a curve there, so I'm going to press Control Z a couple times, undo that, make sure you have only two vertices, right click to cancel once you've moved it. So we want to do Control R, add two loop cuts here by using your mouse wheel to scroll up and add more. Just make sure there's two. It'll say it in the bottom left down here. Left click, right click to cancel. Now we're going to select these, drag them forward, that'll give us the curve. E to extrude, drag them out. There's our C. You can adjust these two if you think you need to. And same here, you can just keep moving them as you need to. Now we want to make this L. The top is probably in line with the M, so we want this vertex. The bottom's always going to be in line, so these two, Shift D, right click to cancel, drag it over. E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it over. We need another edge loop, so Control R, left click, drag it down, left click again. Select these two, E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it over. The A is basically the same size as the C on the top, so select this vertex, hold Shift, select this vertex, Shift D, right click to cancel, drag it over. Press F to make an edge in this case. And E to extrude. I'm just going to drag it over to here for now. We'll need some more details, so Control R, left click, drag it up to where this top part of the A is. Control R, left click, drag it up. Control R, left click. Control R, left click. And Control R, we're going to need another vertical one this time, right here. So now I'm going to go to Face Select, select this face. Actually, first no, we'll just delete it. Just press delete, choose faces. Back to Vertex Select, select these and position them better. And now we'll start pulling these into place over here. We may need another vertex here. Or maybe we can just do this and get away with it. Just continue using G to grab, using these handles, using snapping with control. And actually, I think I want to pull these back. I'm going to delete this face to make a hole, but no, we'll just delete it. Should be fine, yep. Then go back to Vertex Select. And continue extruding. Scaling if you need to, that'll keep them more symmetrical, sort of. Not really symmetrical, but and I just made a face here by pressing F. And we may want to round this out a bit, so I may add some more points here with Control R just to give this a bit of a more rounded shape. For the end here, we can probably just get rid of these vertices, I think, by deleting them. I don't really think we need. And I'm probably just going to delete these two. I think that's going to be good. I'll change it if I need to. We could get rid of this vertex just because it's not really needed. So I think I'm just going to do that by merging it with Alt-M, just because it's not really serving any purpose and it's just getting in the way. So now I want these two vertices again, Shift D, right click to cancel, and we can make the R. F to make a face, E to extrude, right click, drag it over, Control R, left click and drag it up, select these two, E to extrude, now it's time for the E, select these two, Shift D, right click to cancel, drag it over, and when you drag it over, you want to try to, I didn't explain this before, but you see how we have this curve section here. You want to try to drag it over to a point where it's no longer curved and where the top lines up with the top vertex and the bottom lines up with the bottom vertex. That will just keep the overall size the same as the letter before it, so that it doesn't look all distorted. And then press F to make a face. But as long as you've been following along, I think you should be fine. And then E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it over, S to scale, We can add more curvature to this by pressing Ctrl R, adding a loop cut, S, and then drag it out. Select these two, E to extrude, drag it over. Now we need our extra points, so Ctrl R, drag it up, line it up. Ctrl R again until we get all the points we need. And start positioning them accordingly. And extruding them as well to whatever shape you need. And don't forget to make extra faces if you need to, like I just made this face. Just pay attention to your geometry and see what you need. I might just get rid of these two edge loops just to make it a little more simple. I don't think it needs to be so complex here. That probably looks fine just like that. So now for the last letter, select these two, Shift D, F to make a face, E to extrude, drag it over, E to extrude, drag it over, and then E to extrude again, right click, drag it over. I'm going to press Ctrl R, add in loop cut, switch to face select, delete this face. Back in Vertex Select now. Start positioning things. This time I think I probably need a little extra detail to actually make this look more like an N. That's probably going to be fine, and you can add more detail if you think mine isn't quite up to your standards, but I think that looks pretty good. So that's the McLaren logo. We still need this symbol, whatever it is. So make sure you're in edit mode, and we're going to just duplicate this vertex with Shift D. And this time we're just going to drag it over. You don't need to cancel it, cancel the movement. And we'll start extruding over here. Select them both, extrude, right click, start positioning these where they need to be. This end is basically a point. It doesn't really look like it, but I think it's pretty much a point. So So keep that in mind. And just keep adding extra edge loops with Control R, moving things with G or with the handles, and continue until you have basically the shape that we're looking for. Keep extruding them out to try to keep it mostly quads. I may end up making this a triangle just to make it a little smoother, but you want most of this to be quads if you can get it that way. I think we need a little more detail on this curve, so I'm just going to do one more. And that should be pretty good for our McLaren symbol. You can make this a triangle if you want, just by merging these two or something. I'll see how it works if I just leave it. But that's our McLaren symbol. At least it's two-dimensional at this point. If we want to make it three-dimensional, which it actually would be, the text would be as well, but I've tried it out and it seems to be, the text seems to be fine with just 2 dimensions. But this thing I want to make three-dimensional, so go to Face Select, select all these faces, E to extrude. Well, actually, undo that if you actually pressed E, sorry. We want to switch to Edge Select because we don't want the faces, we want the outside edges. Hold Alt and click one, hold Alt Shift, and start clicking the rest of them until you have all of them. E to extrude, right click to cancel, S to scale, and you'll see it gets kind of messed up down here. We're just going to reposition it with the X and Z axis. Scale it out a little more if you want until the new yellow lines are outside of the old black lines here. That's what you want. Because what we're going to do now is switch to Face Select, select these faces. We're going to press I to inset. But you see when we do that, you see how it, over here on the right, you'll see that these faces and edges are crossing. So we can't really use inset in this case, at least not in the way we'd like to. But if you look down at the bottom here, down at the bottom right here, watch when I press I to inset. It has these options. One of them right here is outset. So if we press O, we can use the outset option for this function. And there's also other things that you can try on your own time. But for now, we're going to press O. And that will give us outset. And we want to just do it a little bit here. That's probably good. Left click when you're happy. Hold Alt, right click on one of these edges to get the very outer ring. Press delete, choose faces. Since we made it a bit bigger than the reference image, we will need to scale it down. I'm just going to select all these faces with Circle Select, which is C, and then left clicking. Scale it down with S till it matches the reference. And now that I'm looking at it, I think I want more detail on this outer curve. So I'm going to press Ctrl R, add a loop cut, back to Vertex Select, select these two, and give this more curve. And I might as well give this a little more curve as well, since I got two vertices now. So that looks pretty decent, except I want to adjust this a little. So the important thing is just make sure the shape is the way you want it before you make things three-dimensional. Like I've talked about before, it just makes things a lot easier in most cases. So you want to just make sure that the curves look fairly smooth. They're not going to be perfectly smooth, but smooth them out as much as you can. I think this one's just going to have to stay a little unsmooth at this point. So once you're happy, go to Face Select, select these faces, the inside faces. Whoops. Hit period to focus in, and then you can rotate your view and drag this out some. That'll give it that three-dimensional look that I'm talking about. See that? But you'll notice that the normals are messed up, so go to Select Linked, Mesh Normals, recalculate outside, that fixes that. The normals are messed up on some of these as well. However, if we look at our reference, I'll just use this one for a second. You see these four letters are actually black. These three are white. So if we leave these like this, they're already basically black. So now in edit mode, make sure you're in edit mode, select these. Use any selection method you want, just get both the A and the R. Go to Mesh, Normals, and this time flip Normals. There you go. There's our McLaren symbol. So now that we have that, the next thing we need is to press 1 again to go to front view. And we want to make this. So let's go back to edit mode. Select one of these faces, probably this flat one on the L. Shift D, drag it down here to get us started with this. But the normal was messed up on this one, so go to Mesh Normals, recalculate, or actually that probably didn't work, so Mesh Normals, flip. Should be white like this instead of darker like it was. And now we will start to position these. Then select these two, E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it over. And again, we're going to want to keep it flat on the bottom, flat on the top. So just keep that in mind. Control R to add in some extra details. And the reason I extruded these together is to keep that nice straight angled line there, to keep it the same basically. But that creates this face here, so just make sure you delete it. And then you can do the rest of the 6 here. To keep everything the same, we're going to select these two here, Shift D. That will do 2 things for us. You see the angle is basically perfect. It'll keep the same angle for these basically italic numbers, and also keep the same height. So you want to do everything you can to try to keep things just like that. I pressed F to make an edge, and then I'm just going to start extruding again. And then adding loop cuts with Control R till we have all the details that we need. I'm not sure if I want to do that actually. I was going to try to save on vertices, but you know, it's just going to look nicer if I do it this way, so whatever. And if you want to keep this curve or this angle perfect, what you can do is Shift V instead of using G to grab or using the handles. You can just do Shift V, and that'll keep the angle perfect just the way it is. So it's up to you if you want to try to do that. Just remember to select the faces you don't need, press delete, choose faces. Duplicate these again. Drag it over to a flat part. F to make an edge. E to extrude. E to extrude again. And just keep going until you have the entire thing. And press Control R to add these holes here, or this one hole. There's that. Time for the last one, the S. F to make an edge, E to extrude. Start adding details with Control R. I'll deal with these later. This face we don't need, so just delete it. Add some edge loops with Control R, and then continue extruding until you get the final result. And now, since I don't have faces in the center here, just select these 4 at a time, press F to make a face, do the same right there, and there we have it. There's our 650S logo. So that gives us the McLaren logo and the 650S logo. Now what we have to do is simply position them where we need them. What you can do if you want to keep these nice and flat, perfect like this, just in case you make mistakes or you want to use them later, a good way to save things that you think you might need later is just to press Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, press M, and this is in object mode by the way, press M, and this will bring up the move to layer dialog, and we want to choose, I like choosing this one, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. And now you see we have 2 dots down here, and that just means that we have things on those layers. So if we click this one, this is that layer we just moved this to. This is the only thing on that layer, is just those 2 logos. So if you want to save them perfectly like this for later, you can do it like that. But I'm going to go back to the first layer, select our logos again, and tab to get into edit mode, Z to get out of wireframe here. So now we're going to want to position these. First I'm going to do this one, so I'm just going to select the vertex, Z for wireframe, box select the rest of it with B, and drag it to the back of the car because that's where this one goes. You can see it right here, this is where it goes. And we can see that it fits basically between these 2 pieces here. And it's also smaller in terms of length or width than these pieces are. So you want to make it smaller than that, and it fits in between these, centered of course. I'm just going to press period to focus in on my selection. So it is obviously backwards at this point, so we're going to press R, Z, and 180. There we go. Whoops. To center this thing, just go up to the top of this panel here, and you see the X value, left click it, enter 0, and then press enter. That should perfectly center it. We may need to actually just move it a little off center to make it look correct, but that's how you center things if you want to center them. So this is obviously too big, so it has to scale. I'm going to press Control 1 to go to back view. And remember, yeah, see this is off, so it's going to have to be, we're going to have to just manually center it. because this is smaller, it's supposed to be smaller than here to here, so we need to scale it down a little more still. And that's probably pretty close there, I would say. The other thing we need to do is rotate it some, so I'm going to press R and then X to rotate it a bit. And I think we're going to need to change the geometry of this car a little because it's a bit too angled. So I'm going to press Tab to get out of edit mode, select the car, Tab to go into edit mode, select this vertex, hold Shift, select this one, drag them back a bit because I think it's a bit off at this point. Maybe up some and then back some more. That's probably pretty decent. So just go back to your logo, right click on it, and Tab to go into edit mode again. Then position it where it needs to be. I'm going to scale mine down some. And I need to make the car taller. That part of the car right here needs to be taller so that this little symbol isn't hidden. So that's how you do that. Just keep adjusting the vertices back here, these two, the one that's there and there. You can continue rotating your symbol. Just make sure you're in edit mode whenever you do your rotation. And get it to the point that it looks something like this, because I think that's pretty close. You can do Control 1 to go to back view and take a look at it, compare it to this, and that looks pretty close, I think. We can add some color to this so that the letters are white a bit later, but for now we're just going to leave this as is, because I think that looks pretty good. Even up close, it's not too bad. So next we need to position the other one, which is over here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so Tab to edit, go into edit mode, Z for wireframe, select one of these, B to box select, get all of them, bring it up, bring it over. Now this one goes right here on this little thing, whatever you call it. And this is actually more towards the center of the car. This is the front of the car. It's kind of hard to tell in this picture, but this is the front. This is, you know, behind the wheel, right where this thing is. So just drag it over and up until you get it sort of in position. Another thing we're going to need to do with this is actually give it some depth. To do that, we're just going to press E to extrude, right click to cancel, and drag it forward till you have this. And the normals on this are messed up too, so we're just going to do select linked, mesh, normals, recalculate outside. I guess that's correct. And pull it in, scale it down. We're going to need to rotate this, so RZ 90, RY negative 90, and now it's basically the way it should be. Continue scaling it down with S and moving it into position. Press period to focus in on your current selection. And just move it until it's basically where it should be. So it's pretty close to that, little end piece that we made. So basically like this, I guess. That's probably close enough. But you can see that over here it's starting to go into this piece that's sticking out sooner than over here, which means we need to rotate this some. So we're going to press R and then X and rotate it a little until it sort of evens out. I need to do mine a little more. So there's that. That looks pretty decent right there. But the other thing we need to do is rotate it on the Z-axis. So press RZ. And it's probably actually too big, I think. Yeah, it's pretty big, so scale it down some. Bring it over. Period to focus in. Make sure that it's basically just barely through. So that looks pretty good, I think. But it's not mirrored onto the other side. We could use a mirror modifier, but I'm just going to move it over, I think. So, well, the thing about using a mirror modifier is it wouldn't mirror properly because this is basically text. And I could show you real quick, I guess. Just add a mirror modifier and go to the other side. You see how it's not, like, it should be, the 6 should be here, and it's over here, and it's all messed up, so it's not going to work. So press this X to get rid of the mirror. So I'm going to go to edit mode again by pressing tab. I have all these selected already. Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel. I'm going to press RZ and then 180 degrees. We're going to change the X, so left click on it, click just before this 1 here, put a negative sign, and press enter. That'll do basically the same as mirroring it to some extent. We will have to rotate it on the X, so RX. If you're having trouble while you're rotating, so if I press RX again, you can hold shift to go more slowly until you get it the way you need it. And we still need to rotate around the Z-axis again. So there's that. And I'm pretty happy with that. So next is this front logo. So it's actually a good idea that I saved it because I had forgotten about the front logo. So it basically starts as a rectangle with beveled edges right here, and on the top as well. So we're just gonna click the front somewhere, or actually just do Shift S, cursor to center. That'll make sure it's perfectly in the center when we make it. We're going to make a cube. I'm in object mode. So I guess we could do it in edit mode to keep all the decals together. Sure, why not? So do it in edit mode and then just add a cube. Scale it down. Drag it up. Start to position it. And I'm going to press S and Z to scale it to make it a little flatter here. Period to focus in on it. And we don't really need to get it in position yet. We're just going to try to make it. So S and Y to skinny it, make it a little skinnier. And it needs to be a bit wider. So S and X And I think actually if we go to top view by pressing 7, we have, well, we still have this other image. So first we need to go down, and this new image we added, just click this eye to hide it. And you can bring back the front one if you want. I guess I'll do that. Sure, why not? And press Z. I'm in top view. If you're not, press 7 on the number pad. And this gives us sort of a reference as to how wide it's supposed to be. It's not very detailed, but it does give us the size of it, the relative size of it. So like I said, we want beveled edges. So select the edges, the outer edges. Control B. Till you're happy with it. Maybe I did mine too much, so I'm going to do Control Z and then Control B again. Because it's not much of a bevel, it's just a little, really tiny. So I think with this, I'm not entirely sure, but I think like this black part's actually indented a little. So we're gonna go to edit mode again, face select, select this face, eye to inset, and you know what though, this will probably be easier once we're done with the other part. So just Control Z to undo that until you have just this one face. Right click to cancel the movement. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use a Boolean in a second. So this actually does need to be a separate object. So go to select linked and P to separate and choose selection. So now this is a separate object. We can join it back together later. I'm in object mode, select this little piece so it's orange like that. Go back to edit mode with tab and select linked again. We're going to drag this down. S and Z to scale it because we just want it to go through the car at this point. That's all we want. Then go to add modifier, Boolean, select this object icon, select the cube, go to object mode by pressing tab so we can see the end result. That's exactly what we want, so press apply. Tab to go back into edit mode, select these two top faces, and go to, first go to Vertex Select, and then select Inverse to get all the bottom ones, then press delete, choose Vertices. Go to face select, select these faces, eye to inset, sure, why not, and press A twice to get all of it, E to extrude so that this can have a little depth to it. Select these two faces, E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it down, and you can also scale it in some if you want, or actually first I'll just Control Z that till you have just this. I'll just inset it a little with eye and then drag it down. So that gives us the shape we need for that piece. And this piece can actually be mirrored because it's symmetrical on both sides. The logo's not, but the rest of it is, so we're just going to mirror it. So press tab to go into edit mode, Vertex Select, Z for wireframe, select the vertex on this left side here, B to box select, get the rest of them, press delete, choose vertices. You should have this where it's on the right side of the car. Make sure this is selected, so that's orange on the outside. Hold shift, select the car, go to object and choose join, and now it's automatically mirrored. You can go into edit mode and make sure these vertices are actually stuck together like they're supposed to be, but I'm pretty confident that they are, so I'm not going to check all of them. And now we want our logo again, so go to the second layer, just click on it, make sure you're in object mode, otherwise this layer thing doesn't show up. So go to the second layer, this is where our logos are. Select the logo, tab to go into edit mode because we only want this one. Select the vertex, Z for wireframe, select the rest of them. Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, P to separate, choose selection, tab to go back to object mode. You can see we have both of these selected. Try to select the logo again, and that's just the one that we recreated. M to move, choose the first layer, go back to the first layer, and press tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything. Okay, I thought my screencast keys stopped working, but they're working. So now drag it up into position. You can get out of wireframe by pressing Z, S to scale it down. We're going to need to rotate it, so press RX 90. Actually, it's RX negative 90. Scale it down some more. Get it into position. Period to focus in. So now it's a little less than halfway where this McLaren part is, just so that it can give extra room for this other piece. So, and this other piece almost touches the top. So we're going to need to scale it down some. And press 7 to go to top view so we can get a better look. So it needs to be basically like this. And we can press S and then X to make it wider, because it's probably supposed to be wider. And I think that looks pretty good. But this one doesn't have the black lettering like the other one did, so we're going to need to change the normals on this. So everything selected, just go to Mesh, Normals, Recalculate Outside. And that fixes that. And now what we want to do is use the use the Boolean again to make it flush with this other piece. But first we need to give this some more depth. This one already has some, so I'm going to go to Face Select. Select one of these faces, period to focus in. And we want to get these outside edges, so go to Edge Select. Hold Alt and right click. Hopefully that gets all of them. Looks like it did. For now we're just going to press F to make a face, just to make sure the Boolean doesn't mess up, and we're going to drag this down through the model. Now we want to select the rest of the letters. So use whatever selection method you want. Right here I'm using Circle Select. E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it down. We're going to have to recalculate the normals because these are all messed up. Press A twice, go to Mesh, Normals, recalculate outside. This is already a separate object, so go to Add Modifier, Boolean, select the object, choose the cube, and in object mode make sure that it gets the results you want, just like this, where it's just right on the surface, just like we had before. Then press Apply. And Tab for edit mode. We're going to want to select these top faces one at a time. And I don't even know what this is. Okay, we probably need this as well. So make sure you get all the ones that are important. Like this one. And these. Then go to Vertex Select. Go to Select, Inverse. And if I press Z, you can see there's a whole bunch of extra things we don't need here. Press Delete, choose Vertices. Looks like nothing's changed, but all the stuff behind it's gone. So now we can just press A to select everything, E to extrude, but actually I'm going to right click to cancel and then Control Z this, because this logo we want to do differently, so I'm going to deselect it. So E to extrude this logo, right click, drag it up. There's that McLaren logo. Select this, I to inset, it's going to go all crazy. Just drag it till it's not all crazy. And then drag it up some. So that looks pretty good. So at this point what we can do is just save this. So go ahead and choose File and Save. There's one thing I forgot to do with these decals, and that's remove the faces that are on the bottom that no one's gonna see. So I have this decal selected. I'm just gonna press Tab to go to edit mode. A to select all of it. I just pressed A twice. Period to focus in. This will probably be easier if we hide the car. So I'm going to press Tab, then select the car, press H to hide it. Select the logo again, Tab to go into edit mode. Control 7, which will bring us into bottom view, which you can see up top. A to deselect everything. And just make sure you're not in wireframe, you want to be in solid. And we're going to press C for circle select, start selecting these faces. And I think we can possibly get away with doing the same over here, unless there may not be a face there at all. So first I'm just going to press delete, choose faces. That gets rid of that problem. And I don't think there's a face here at all. Yeah, there isn't. So we're fine with this shape. We don't have to do anything. So that logo is taken care of now. So I'm going to press tab to get out of edit mode. And there should be this other one here. So select it by right clicking it and tab to go into edit mode. Control 7 for bottom view. Just press A once and then A again to make sure nothing is selected. I'm in face select. Just press C for circle select. And that's not going to work, I guess. So we're going to have to get in closer. And then do it again, C for circle select. We're going to have to do this on both sides. C for circle select. Then right click once you have your selection. Delete, choose faces, and just make sure everything's okay. So I'm going to select these and press period. Just make sure that everything looks fine. And it actually doesn't. I'm going to have to make a face here by pressing F. Now I got to check the other side. Select a vertex, period, to focus in, then zoom in. And just make sure that all the faces are there that are supposed to be there. I think on this one I'm okay. I think the back one was fine, but I'm going to check it anyway. So I'm going to press tab to go to edit mode, select one of these vertices, period, to focus in on it. Yeah, this one was just flat, so we're okay on this. So this should be all set. I'm going to go back to object mode, press Alt H to unhide everything. Select the car and then press period to focus in on it so we don't have a crazy view. And that should be it for the decals. So press File and Save.